Hey, good evening, and thank you for being here tonight. Very excited for us to show this film here in Little Rock. I got to watch it the other night and looking forward to going through it again because I'm going to we're going to have a panel afterwards with our directors and producers who are so gracious to be with us tonight. Maisie and Abbie, they're here with us joining us, so I'm glad to have them in Little Rock. I'm Tippi McCullough. I'm a state representative here in Little Rock. I'm also a member of the Arkansas Cinema Society Board. And this is one of the wonderful things that we get to do is partner with people here in Little Rock, such as the Clinton Foundation, to do wonderful events like this that are very meaningful. The Cinema Society, our big event is Filmland, which is usually in August, and was very successful this year. So if you haven't been to that, I hope you'll try to come to that next summer. We also do a lot of educational events. Our mission is to bring movies here for you guys to see, for you to talk about, and to connect us with each other. And we also want to really promote our filmmakers and do everything we can with our filmmakers around the state and help them. There's a wonderful staff for the Cinema Society. Kate's back there tonight with us. And other than that, just looking forward to you guys seeing this movie and us getting to talk to it afterwards. So thank you for being here, and we'll start the movie. Thanks. Okay. I kind of want to jump right into this because we're going to spend about 15 or 20 minutes, so I want to get as much from these two ladies as possible. You could tell by the reactions in the audience while we were watching it that it was, you did so many things with this film. It was hard to watch at times. It was traumatic. It was traumatic for the plaintiffs. It was traumatic for Molly. It was traumatic for everybody going through it, for the husbands. I can imagine it must have been traumatic for you guys at some time, too. Here in Arkansas, we were talking before, we don't have exceptions except for the life of the mother in a medical emergency, which is vague, how you define that. And in the legislature here, the last two sessions, we have brought forth bills to, we've had women legislators, Democrats, bring bills to for each one of the lack of exceptions, rape, incest, health of the mother. We've done that every time and failed, and of course we'll keep doing this. So we also talked some about that. But I guess what I want to start out with is, with you guys, what was the moment that you decided to do this film? What led up to this film? And then also what led up, since we're here at the Clinton Foundation showing of this, how did you get these wonderful executive producers to help you with it?
So Abbie and I started planning to make a film about what was going to happen with the overturning of Roe really around the time that the Supreme Court decided to engage on Dobbs. I had made a film that came out in 2016 about the last abortion clinic in Mississippi called Jackson. And at that time, I thought things couldn't get worse. So when we knew that it was going to go to the Supreme Court, we knew the only reason they would engage was to likely try and overturn Roe. And the day of the Supreme Court oral arguments, the director of the clinic in Mississippi called me, and Abbie was sitting next to me, and she knew at that moment. I mean, I think anyone who listened to it knew that Roe would be overturned. And so we started diving in, and we actually were at the clinic the day that Roe was overturned, the clinic in Mississippi. And when we were there, I remember we were so horrified because women were calling in and saying, you know, what do I do? I just remember so well someone saying that they took a bleach pod, like a Tide bleach pod, because they were so scared that they weren't going to be able to get into a clinic that day. And it was so dire. And Abbie and I wanted to show how dire it was, but also couple that with some sense of hope. And that's really what we found in Molly and the plaintiffs. And so we spent a lot of time meeting different individuals, going through things similar to what the plaintiffs in the case experienced. And when we found out there was going to be a lawsuit, we felt, okay, well, here's the narrative that we can really wrap this film around. And at the same time that we were planning this film, we were speaking with Hidden Light, the Clintons, Secretary Clinton and Chelsea's production company. And they were also looking for a story to make. So we really joined forces very early on in the process.
Did you have anything?
I would just add that, the Clintons came on so early in the process. We had not even determined we were going to follow this case. They just knew, like we did, that we needed to tell a story at such a historic moment, but also such a critical moment where people were going to go through horrific things, and we knew those stories needed to be elevated, and they saw the value of lending their platform to voices that otherwise didn't have one. And so we were so grateful just to have their backing from day one, and they, joined arms with us, especially the day Roe was overturned. We all looked at each other and said, okay, we're doing this.
It's amazing. So one of the things I want to talk some from your perspective as filmmakers, because the issue is the issue. But from your perspective as filmmakers, to me, when I thought about watching this, and this is the second time I've seen it, and I believe I could see it more times, and I would still see some new things coming out in it, and it still would touch me, upset me, anger me, but also the bravery and the courage of everybody involved is so amazing. But the clarity of the movie really stuck out to me because we're talking, there could be a lot of legalese, there could be a lot of medical jargon, there could be a lot of stuff like that, but it seems that you guys were able to keep it character-centered with Amanda and Samantha and Molly and Austin. And I'm wondering what that process was like, what obstacles you faced, but also was it just a matter of good editing? How did you get the film to be so clear, and how did it have that story arc that you had?
Well, I think one of the brilliant things about Molly and about this case and about the lawyers that worked on it was that they knew centering patients and their stories and really putting their faces out there and their names and their experiences, that was going to be the most powerful part of this lawsuit. I mean, I think that there was a real clear understanding that they might not win the case that they were taking in Texas. But if they could get a large number of women to come forward and share their stories, that was going to make some sort of noise and some sort of difference. And so we were able to get access to that. And I think we did struggle at first. Well, okay, we're coming into this after some of the story has happened, how do we tell that? Because a lot of times in the films that we make, we're really there for every moment. But I think the moment that solidified it for me was when Samantha got on the stand and, she vomited on the stand, and it was the trauma that she was experiencing. And it was clear that while the actual incident of being denied abortion wasn't a moment that we captured, the long-term traumatic effects were what we were able to witness in a very intimate way. And I think that seeing that and living through that with someone was so much more powerful than just seeing a woman being told, no, she can't have care.
I just wanted to add that when we met Amanda really early on, we just felt an immediate trust with her, and she opened up to us so quickly. But we asked her in one of our first meetings with her, what's something that the media is missing? Because she was doing press. She wanted to be out there and tell her story. She said, they all understand that I went through this acute trauma, was denied care, was in the hospital, went septic twice. Nobody's capturing the long-term traumatic effects of this, the day in, day out, months later, how much it has affected her, her husband, her family. And so I think there it really crystallized for us that we wanted to go on a long-term journey and spend a lot of time with them as they battled this court case, but also continued to try to build their families in the way that they wanted, despite the state trying to step in.
I was curious also while watching it, I think they said there were 15 plaintiffs maybe, and did at some point, did you guys narrow it down to these three specific? How did that process work?
at the end, there were 22 plaintiffs, and I think maybe more once Kate and her husband filed suit. And so with every stage of this case going through the courts, there were more plaintiffs joining on and even more individuals reaching out. I mean, Molly's phone, we would be at her house and it would just like ring at all hours of the day. And the messages that they would get on the answering machines at the center, it was all the time. And for one reason or another, individuals either could or couldn't join. I mean, there were so many more that could not join that wanted to join, but because their livelihood could be at risk or because they felt like their family could be at risk, they couldn't put their name on the suit. And we decided to focus on the 3 women that we decided to focus on around the same time that Molly decided on who was going to take the stand, because they didn't all take the stand to testify.
That makes sense. I want to go back to the trauma that everyone faced in the movie, but I also want to ask you guys personally, if you ever had to like take a personal day or take a step back, how were you able to keep the validity and the authenticity of the movie, but still, I guess, have a wall there so you could do your job? But I mean, it's hard to watch, so I can't imagine being as involved as you guys were in it.
Yeah, we both come from backgrounds in journalism, and so you try to approach something with an unbiased perspective, but we're at Halo's funeral, and there's no way to separate yourself from that. And I remember looking at Maisie, and we were both just tears running down our face filming it. But it really was about continuing to build that trust over time, and Samantha immediately was so open and willing because she understood the power of making her story public. But there were so many moments where Maisie and I, one thing we do is often just share a hotel room because we need to debrief together. We need to experience this, but then step away, talk about what happened, talk about how we're feeling, and it's just better to do it with a partner. It's why I'm so glad to make this film with someone like Maisie. But there were so many moments where, once the cameras were down, we were, processing along with these women, like when Amanda's embryo transfer fails. That was, a devastating moment to be filming, and we gave her ample opportunity to okay, let's take a break, let's come back to it. But it is about that continuous consent and that process of trust and feeling like it's a collaboration.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, all I was going to say is that I think one of the things that was really important in making this film, and I think any film where you're centering someone who's super vulnerable. And I think that all of these women were willing to be super vulnerable in front of the camera, is that they had at every step of the filmmaking process, we made sure that they were comfortable with what was being filmed and what we were filming, because they were so really just raw in front of the cameras. And I think that allowed the film to be so powerful, and without their consent, I don't think that the story would be as clear and concise as it is.
But I also know that you guys also, there were moments where there was a little levity, so it's not just that terrible burden through the whole thing of carrying all of this. And some of my favorite parts were when Dr. Denard was on the stand and she stood up, to the estate, and especially when Samantha, because they all bonded, when Samantha said she's a baddie. I mean, that was definitely so great. So did you guys try to it might have just been because of the way the court case was, but was there any intention on you guys making this portraying it as a total medical issue and kind of taking it out as much as possible of politics and even religion?
I mean, I think we definitely, one thing, my earlier film on the last clinic in Mississippi really explored the anti-abortion movement and how they operate, and really tried to show what they did and understand why they were doing it. And this film, I think Abbie and I both felt like we want to center patient experiences, family experiences, individuals who are trying to access care and unable to get it. And that's what this film is about. We don't care what people who are against abortion have to say about this, because this isn't their story right now.
Were you trying, do you think, was this about educating people, trying to give people hope after the Dobbs decision, or was there anything else that you think the film was trying to do?
I mean, I think one of the alarming things for us I remember being in the edit and hearing, I think it was on Texas Standard, which is a show on the local NPR station in Texas, hearing that like 80% of women of childbearing age in Texas didn't know what the abortion laws were. And I think that's fairly intentional, and I think that we don't talk about it enough. And so I think another reason for making the film was to continue to talk about abortion and all the number of reasons that individuals seek abortion care. And what came out in the process of making this film and showing this film around the country was the number of individuals that we met who didn't even know that they had had an abortion at some point or another in their life, because it was maybe miscarriage management, or they were pregnant with a wanted pregnancy but had to terminate the pregnancy because the fetus wasn't viable. And I think really helping people understand that abortion means a large number of things.
What feedback? I know you've received feedback, so feedback from audiences all over the country. Feedback. What kind of feedback have you had, though, from maybe family, neighbors, people that you know more? Any backlash, or has it all been pretty positive?
Sometimes people ask us if we get, like scary threats or anything, and that's just really not the case. I think it speaks to the fact that abortion is not a 50-50 issue. It is largely popular. People that vote want to support abortion, and we see that when it is on the ballot in states, even red states, blue states. And so
I'll say one thing since making this film, and I don't think that it's the film that has done this. I think it's the time that we're living in. It's really heartening to see the number of women come forward and share their stories. I think there's really been a movement of people, and not just women, spouses, partners, children, talking about the abortions in their lives and why they've needed abortion care. And I think that if there's anything that this film can do, it's to encourage more and more people to share those stories.
So maybe as we start to summarize and close this up a little bit, do you guys have like any updates that you can share that maybe either about any of the plaintiffs? Is there a need for a sequel in a sense, to this, another movie? Or after both of those, what else do you have, guys, as filmmakers? What are you doing as filmmakers? Do y'all have something else in the works?
Well, Molly's phone is still ringing, and sadly in Texas, not much has changed. But thankfully, these women have not gone quiet. They are out there. The Texas legislature meets every 2 years, so they just met, and these women are out there testifying because they're now trying to ban so much about the abortion pill being in Texas at all. And so these women have not given up, and that's what gives me hope to keep going and to keep making films, because this issue is far from through, and I know you guys here in Arkansas are in a very similar situation, and it takes people coming together and saying the word abortion over and over and normalizing it and sharing these stories with people in your life. I've had so many conversations in my personal life that have really shifted the way that people in my family think and talk about abortion, and I just think it's one of the best things we can do is destigmatize it as much as possible.
I mean, I don't really think I have much to add, because I think I feel similarly to Abbie, and, we're continuing to work on stories around women's access to healthcare and women being able to do what women should be able to do. We're in development on a few different things right now.
Great. Well, is this your first time in Little Rock for both of you guys?
I actually came here and visited an abortion clinic shortly after Brett Kavanaugh was nominated to the Supreme Court. So,
What about you, Abbie?
I came through 10 years ago and then was here last year. I flew in here to go to Hot Springs for the festival.
Yeah, great. Well, we're really glad to have you here. I don't know, when I walked in, I was looking around. A lot of the folks in this room have been in this fight. They're up at the Capitol, they're testifying, they're working to elect pro-choice people. They're working to elect pro-choice people, which are pro-life people, right? See how I caught that? But we really appreciate you being here. We know that the film's been out. We tried, I think, gosh, it was back in May or sometime. So it's been a little, trying to attempt to make everything work out. So we're so incredibly pleased that y'all were able to join us tonight, because seeing the movie is great, and that's usually what we get to do, right? But to hear from both of you, have a little inside baseball with it, and to we just also want you to know you're always welcome in Little Rock, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing on this issue and on women's reproductive health, and we just want to say thank you and good luck.
thank you so much.
Thanks for the conversation.